Welcome to American Education FM, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean Brooks.
Hi, everybody. Number of things to bring up here. I'm just going to get right to it. I want to spend some time on this first here right off the top. I found that what happened last week, again, just reversing time just over 8+ days, to be absolutely fascinating. And it really did redefine, I think, why I do what I do, and hopefully why you continue to listen to this show. And if you do, thank you for doing so. But I just want to revisit what took place last week that defines, again, why I'm doing what I'm doing and why it's important. There are a number of reasons, I think, as to why this is important, but this, again, it proves that this is one of those topics that a number of people don't want to discuss, and the simple fact that they're not having the discussion is a much larger problem. 1 week ago, I was emailing with Sarah Westall back and forth, 10 emails in total, 5 from each of us. I, of course, reached out first, and then she replied, and back and forth and back and forth. And what I was able to do, of course, was measure what she was willing to discuss and what she was not. And then, of course, she openly admitted that there were topics that she didn't think were that important to bring up. So that was the beginning of the week, so to speak, 8+ days ago. And then, in the middle of the week, very quickly, of course, Greg Reese puts out an entire report on his show and on his Rumble channel, certainly, and his BitChute channel and all over social media about the lie of virology, which, of course, was a small little discussion and a focal point, basically, that I brought up with Sarah Westall. I said, this is a problem. The fact that you're not bringing this up with any regularity, and that this lie continues to be perpetuated on everyone worldwide, and that, again, it is the foundation of the pharmaceutical industry lie. The fact that came out in the middle of the week, I found to be absolutely incredible timing. And then Justin Leslie's documentary titled Project Whistleblower came out, and I watched it in its entirety. I have to tell you, and I will link it in the description below again, if you listen to this show, you have to watch that. Please it's a very quick 2.5 hours. It flies by, and it's remarkably informative. In fact, out of the gate, Justin Leslie brings up the lie of virology, because even as he was working at Pfizer, he was learning about the lie of virology. He was figuring out that all of this is a giant con job, that none of this is real, that you need the fairy tale in order to push a drug on people, believing that the drug is somehow going to prevent the fairy tale from occurring, and a number of other things. It is a very, very well done, put together, and thorough documentary. He names numerous names of individuals who worked within Project Veritas and the O'Keefe Media Group. He mentions even General Flynn, Patrick Byrne, and a number of other individuals who grifted off of the Q movement. He brings them up also. And then, of course, he brings up the fact that James O'Keefe went to Bohemian Grove, and then you hear James O'Keefe specifically talking about Bohemian Grove and how he went. And then he discusses again how he's just trying to figure out who exactly he can trust that works around him. And Justin Leslie records all of these phone calls. Again, I find it remarkably interesting that James O'Keefe was teaching individuals how to use and implement these quote-unquote undercover methods. And then these methods were actually being used against the people within Project Veritas, because individuals who are more morally sound than them, certainly more morally sound than James O'Keefe, they were using these methods against them to expose them for who they are. That's remarkable. I find it absolutely incredible, and I absolutely love it. Justin Leslie is a hero. The man's a hero. I mean, he's done incredible things. And there were a number of things that, again, are brought up in his documentary, Project Whistleblower, which you've also heard me mention on the show. And there was one in particular where I immediately just started laughing out loud. I couldn't believe it. I was laughing so hard. He actually says in the second half, if I'm not mistaken, because there's a little intermission right in the middle, but he says in the second half that he openly knew, and of course it was proven, that James O'Keefe and the people immediately around him were engaging in picking low-hanging fruit, quote unquote, when it came to particular stories. That they had massive stories of higher-ups within Pfizer who knew what was going on and were openly discussing that they knew what was going on and how this isn't good. And then at the exact same time, Justin Leslie says, but then out of nowhere, instead of running with that story, James O'Keefe runs with a story about some leftist school superintendent who's openly gay and, likes all the pornographic books in the library. Again, Justin Leslie openly says this is low-hanging fruit. And you've heard me say that too. I mean, it's remarkable. We're on the same wavelength. He knew firsthand that James O'Keefe was avoiding stories. He knew it. And that right there, of course, is not integrity. That's not being ethical, and that's not being morally sound. If you're going to puff your chest out and say, well, I'm a whistleblower and, we expose people and, be brave, do something is our slogan. You got to be careful with people who run slogans. You've got to be real careful because there's almost always hypocrisy behind a slogan. It's like any time I read a mission or a vision statement from an American K-12 school or even a company, I say to myself, why did you even bother writing it? You're not going to stick with it. You don't actually believe it. You're not doing anything around here that exemplifies or defines that actual mission or vision statement. So why even have one? It's just window dressing. It's just designed to make it look like they're doing something when they're not. And Justin Leslie exposes these people to no end. And I'm going to tell you how deep this rabbit hole goes. It goes so deep in the Con Inc. game that exists right now and has been existing for quite some time that there isn't a single conservative outlet, quote unquote, that I've seen carry Justin Leslie's story about James O'Keefe, Project Veritas, and O'Keefe Media Group. Not one. It's not on the Gateway Pundit. It's not on any other major conservative outlet. Not at all. It's not even heavily making the rounds on BitChute and Rumble. It's not heavily making the rounds around X or any other social media platform. It just isn't. Now, what does that prove? It proves a number of things, I think. Number one, it proves that all of those individuals are working for the Jewish lobby. That's one avenue. There are many. Another one, of course, is that everybody put their chips in, didn't they, on James O'Keefe? Like, he must be the most morally sound person on the face of the planet. He must be doing all of the right things all of the time. Look at all of these lawsuits that he's winning, so to speak, or all of these retractions that he's getting from major media outlets. He must be the cat's pajamas. And then they put all their eggs in the same basket and they say, well, we have to defend this guy. Every single time he comes out with a story, we have to put it on our websites. And, he always brings the pain every single time with one of his stories. They all got exposed, all of them, for blindly trusting an individual who associates with the same kinds of people that they all associate with. So to the Sarah Westalls out there, yeah, guilt by association is and has always been a very real thing. You are only as good as the company you keep. And if your company that you're keeping are gatekeepers and you don't even know it, well, what does that mean about you? It means that your mental capacity is being limited by the people around you based on, again, the people that they associate with, the conversations they have, so on and so on and so on. It exposed so much because, again, If you turn on any of these people's shows, it could be Sarah Westall, the Mel Kays of the world, any conservative radio show, did they even bring up, I mean, Glenn Beck certainly didn't, did he? I didn't hear him bring it up. I didn't hear Chris Plant bring it up. And again, full disclosure, I don't listen to their shows, but I tune in every now and again for about 5-10 minutes to see what they're talking about and what they're not talking about. And I know that would never take in the full weight of anything that they actually bring up on their show, certainly from a timeline standpoint, but you get what I'm saying. This is bigger. This is a bigger story regarding James O'Keefe, Project Veritas, and O'Keefe Media Group, and the people that they all associate with. It's a bigger story than anything that they've even brought to bear. And what Justin Leslie has and had on these people is massive. It's the biggest thing that they've ever done. And they didn't run with it because it shot a little too close to the sun. That's why. And they were cowards. So all this be brave, we'll help you. We're here for you as protection for whistleblowers, and you can come forward and expose. They were using these people. That's it. They were using them. They were using them for their own fame, their own clout, and all of it. And what did it lead to? It led to James O'Keefe spending at least 7 days at Bohemian Grove. Even if they're not, witnessing any kind of a sacrifice, or there's not sex clubs there, or who knows, maybe there is. I've always thought James O'Keefe's, little light in the loafers. That's my 2 cents. But either way, even if nothing shady occurred, it doesn't matter. Guilt by association is a real thing. And if anybody listening to this would say to themselves, well, I would never go to Bohemian Grove. Well, why not? James O'Keefe went, and I thought he was one of your friends. I thought he was one of the guys that you all looked up to and respected all of the time. See, that blows that right out of the water. That blows that level of thinking right out of the water instantly. And I should mention this too. This was another thing that was in the documentary. The other thing that was in Project Whistleblower was that many of the former employees of Project Veritas and O'Keefe Media Group even, but more specifically Project Veritas, they work with Steven Crowder now. Do you trust Steven Crowder to tell you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? No. He abused his wife, for God's sakes. He's a wife abuser. But don't worry, he does good work, and we respect him, and he's out there getting the message out, and blah, blah, blah. There are millions of us to his one. To his one platform, there's millions of us telling the real truth about what's really going on, and diving into subjects that he won't touch with a 10-foot pole. In 1 week, the importance of the lie of virology was exposed, without a doubt, in one massive week, which again also, that's why they're not airing the documentary, and that's why they're not promoting it, because the lie of virology is throughout the documentary. So you can't say, no one can say, that the lie of virology isn't real. The lie is certainly real. Virology does not exist. But you also can't say that it's not important. Because if no one's going to bring it up, that means it's important. Fox News, of course, would never touch his documentary with a 10-foot pole. Not at all. Certainly not Fox News. But even the lower level individuals don't want to. Why? Because deep down, they feel a little slighted. If they even watch the documentary, which I believe at this point it has somewhere around 35,000, 36,000 views is all. It should have hundreds of thousands, if not millions. It's that well done. It really is that well done. On top of that, again, Alex Jones didn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Why not? This is exposing many, many things here. And then, of course, what do you have at the end of the week? You have this shooting in Russia where a number of individuals die on camera, which ironically enough is the exact same theater that is shown to be infiltrated by quote-unquote terrorists also in the Christopher Nolan movie Tenet. I saw that online, watched the clip, and was like, wow, that's interesting. What are the odds? What are the odds of all the theaters to pick to do a stage shooting of some kind, and then this shooting apparently, assuming it's real, which it appears to be, ends up taking place. And then, of course, you have Barry Soetoro going over there, Barack Obama going over to the UK and knocking on the Prime Minister's door and having a nice little meeting for a while. And then, of course, the entire media runs with, it's ISIS. ISIS did it. Well, ISIS is Israeli. ISIS is the Israeli Secret Intelligence Service, if I'm not mistaken. And none of the guys who they captured looked like they were Arabs of any kind. They looked Jewish. They were all Ukrainian. Oops. See how that story just blows up in everybody's face too? This is all coming to a head here. And then, of course, you have Candace Owens. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Candace Owens is still wrong on endless issues. She's still wrong. She got cut loose, or, they negotiated their contract for her to get out of the Daily Wire. She never should have been there in the first place, but they threw a bunch of money at her because they said, we got to control this sharp-tongued black gal who seems to know a great deal about conservative movements and, this, that, and the other. Again, no one seemed to care where she came from. The fact that she was hard left-wing and then all of the sudden woke up and now she finds herself with the Daily Wire and with handlers and in the White House and, again, testifying in front of Congress, all of it is beyond suspicious. And, of course, she's no historian by any stretch. She's not very well read when it comes to that. And she gets a great deal of history things wrong. But she's going after the Jewish lobby to some extent. And she's apparently starting to connect some of these dots. And she's doing it out in the public and out in the open. That's great. If she's waking people up to what's going on with, again, Jewish philosophy and the lobby and who they fund and who they don't, and the kinds of things they do in their spare time, which for some of them is remarkably degenerate, as, again, she brings up more specifically. But at the exact same time, she's still wrong on a great deal of things, and unfortunately, she's made the exact same move that James O'Keefe made when he left Project Veritas. She leaves Daily Wire, and before you know it, in my inbox, and perhaps yours, you're getting all these conservative emails from Candace Owens, because for some reason, our emails are on everybody's instant email list. And then you end up getting emails from Candace Owens where she's telling people that she's left the Daily Wire, and here's where you can donate. Don't forget to donate to Candace Owens. She needs your help in the fight for freedom. She's a multimillionaire. She doesn't need money. She doesn't need your money. She doesn't need my money. I'm not giving her a dime. It's this kind of stuff, again, where you continue the grift, and it really pisses off a lot of people. So, I don't know. These people need to repent for a great deal of things. None of us are perfect. We all should repent. I'm certain of that, myself included. But even so, I'm not going to claim to be holier than thou and then stick my hand out and beg for it and bombard people with emails begging for money just because I got a giant settlement and, out of my contract and I'm already a multimillionaire or something along those lines. It's ridiculous. These people are frauds, and they're being exposed as being frauds. I'm not saying they haven't woken some people up along the way. I know that they have. Like I said in the last episode, you cast enough lines in the water, you're going to catch a fish. It's inevitable. But we've got to watch out for this. This is a reoccurring pattern here that matters. There's another thing, too, and I should say this, and I actually had this thought. I had this thought as I was watching Project Whistleblower because I thought it was kind of funny. And it's actually proving to be remarkably true and quite a litmus test. The next time that you see someone dancing, singing, or self-promoting in that way, in particular if they're on the so-called conservative side of things, I think it's safe to say that that person can't be trusted. And I'm very quickly going to bring up an old story where immediately my spidey senses tingled and I thought to myself, what am I witnessing? What the hell is this? What is going on? And it was in 2021 during the White Coat Summit when I'm in that room with all those medical doctors and Simone Gold and John Strand and everybody else. And they're all getting on the stage and they're singing We Are the World. I shit you not, I was probably 10 feet from John Strand. In the back of the room, I was sitting down, he was standing up to my right. And he was singing We Are the World at the top of his lungs. And I thought to myself, what is happening here? Where am I? Who are these people? This is a promotional event, and we're supposed to be here talking about very serious shit. But they're more concerned with singing on camera and then getting that on film because somebody thought that would be a good idea to promote whatever it is that they're doing as a organization or whatever. It was embarrassing. I was embarrassed for everybody in the room. They had, again, these children come up. They had this giant oil drum that they set on fire, and they were throwing all these masks in this oil drum. One kid at a time was coming up and throwing masks into this oil drum. It was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I mean, I understood the message, but it was stupid. And it was a colossal waste of time. And that, again, is when I thought to myself, these people are in this for money. They're not in it for really doing the right thing, per se. It's all about money and attention. So again, with a smile on my face, I'm serious. Let that litmus test set in, because that's what James O'Keefe did too. He dyed his hair. He was in plays. When he was at Project Veritas, he was in dance videos. He was in all this promotional horseshit. It's pathetic. It misses the entire mark, because as he's dancing and singing on a stage about how he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, Justin Leslie is at home crying himself to sleep because he's hung his ass out to dry. And he's sitting on the largest Pfizer story in the history of Pfizer that's never been brought to people at a time when, if it was brought to people, even after the Massachusetts state ruled that you're allowed to film people in Massachusetts, even after that, he could have brought the story, and he didn't. And that's why Justin Leslie ran with the story on his own, because he knew that he was the only person who was going to be able to do it. Justin Leslie deserves our applause. He deserves our prayers. And the people who hung his ass out to dry deserve nothing. Absolutely nothing. And the people who don't talk about him and his documentary deserve nothing. This entire time that people have been clamoring for James O'Keefe to bring him the next most revealing story, James O'Keefe is finished. He's finished. This documentary blows it all apart. He's done. He has zero credibility. Like I said, in the documentary, you hear James O'Keefe talk specifically to Justin Leslie over the phone and ask him whether or not he's going to side with James. Are you going to side with me? Or are you on my side? Are we in this together? Or are we, are you coming after me? Are all my employees coming after me now? Does no one trust me anymore? Yes, James, yes. No one trusts you. And it's your own damn fault. It's your fault. You rubbed shoulders and elbows with the wrong people. You kissed the wrong rings. You bent the knee to the wrong people. And that's the way that it is. And the moment that someone says that Zionism needs to be defeated, you hang up on them. As per your Twitter Spaces call that you decided to air on YouTube that I caught and played on this show. Same thing. If people can't recognize who the real enemy is here, ladies and gentlemen, and we don't call them out, we're not going to win. It's not going to happen. So I could continue to rail on about this. Believe me, I could. But if the tone doesn't change among specific individuals and change quick, things are going to be moving in a direction that we aren't going to want. And the can is going to get kicked down the road, and this is going to be a problem for every generation coming forward. Every single one. Which very quickly, again, leads me to this, just sort of as a bit of a side note. I'm sure you saw the same footage that I did. It was on Disclosed TV. I put it in the war video. It's very disturbing, of course, of the illegal aliens running past and knocking over Texas National Guard soldiers at the border in El Paso, and then running up to the bigger wall that was behind them to only be stopped then, and then whatever. I mean, they ran past the barbed wire, is what I'm saying. That is exactly what is going to happen in the future. That's exactly what's going to consistently and continue to happen time after time after time. In fact, that's the first time we've specifically seen that kind of movement in a violent fashion, en masse, when it comes to running past United States soldiers. And they were carrying guns, and they didn't fire on them, and they should have. That's my professional opinion. They should have fired on them. They should have shot them. You don't know if they're armed or they're not. Again, if you're a National Guard soldier and you get knocked to the ground by a horde of illegal aliens, you'd better start firing like Kyle Rittenhouse in Kenosha. And your soldiers, for God's sakes. I mean, don't you have the right to do that? You're defending yourself. Illegal aliens are literally running over you on their way into a country that isn't theirs. That's yours. It's like that Arizona rancher. I mean, he's on trial right now, this poor man, this 80-some-odd-year-old man, for shooting an illegal alien on his own property, his farm, and the illegal alien not only has a criminal record and had one, but he had been there before numerous times. Criminal trespass. I'm telling you, things are amping up here. I know you can feel it in your bones. I know you could last week too. And of course, last week at the exact same time, Congress passed and the Senate ended up passing also, and of course it's been approved, the latest funding bill that has a total of $25 million, which is split between the CDC and NIH to fund anti-gun studies to promote and advocate for gun control. Again, they're openly telling you what they want to do. They're openly saying, we want you disarmed. We're flooding your country with illegals. We want you disarmed. And then the next move, of course, is we're going to kill you. And of course, this is happening regarding all of the squatting that's taking place across the United States. Anybody just walking into any house they want and refusing to leave. It's beyond absurd. And then, of course, the week seemed to basically top out with this, and this came out on Saturday. And this is going to lead into an education-related story here, which is one of the larger themes, I think, of this particular episode. But there is something that is happening, ladies and gentlemen, across American school boards right now that I think is alarming. And it's the same pattern. It's the same presentations. I'm going to play it later for you so that you can hear it. It's that important. And I think that this is all connected. So, first of all, out of the DOJ's Office of Public Affairs, and they released this, and it is called Justice Department Launches the National Extreme Risk Protection Order Resource Center. See, all I hear is gun grab. That's all I hear. All I hear is bigger government, more government, less individual rights. Again, this was dated March 23rd, Saturday of 2024 here. I'm going to read this because this matters big time. It says the Justice Department launched the National Extreme Risk Protection Order, or ERPO, Resource Center, which will provide training and technical assistance to law enforcement officials, prosecutors, attorneys, judges, clinicians, victim service and social service providers, community organizers, and behavioral health professionals responsible for implementing laws designed to keep guns out of the hands of people who pose a threat to themselves or others. That means every government and judicial and or law enforcement quote-unquote agency against you and against me. I don't like any of this. and I'm a law-abiding citizen. But now they're chalking it up to, if we feel like you shouldn't have a gun, well, then we're going to knock on your door. It continues and it says, quote, "The launch of the National Extreme Risk Protection Order Resource Center will provide our partners across the country with valuable resources to keep firearms out of the hands of individuals who pose a threat to themselves or others," unquote, said Attorney General Merrick B. Garland. Quote, "The establishment of the center is the latest example of the Justice Department's work to use every tool possible by landmark bipartisan Safer Communities Act to protect communities from gun violence," unquote. Translation: we're going to take guns from law-abiding citizens. Period. We are going to infringe on your Second Amendment rights. We are unconstitutional by definition, and we don't care. That's what this means. It goes on. It says ERPO laws, which are modeled off domestic violence protection orders, create a civil process allowing law enforcement family members in most states and medical professionals or other groups in some states to petition a court to temporarily prohibit someone at risk of harming themselves or others from purchasing and possessing firearms for the duration of the order. Again, I cannot believe. I can believe it, but this right here again, not bringing up this subject goes right back to not bringing up Project Veritas. I put them in the same category or the same kind of theme. Not bringing this up is a problem because this is a massive infringement on our rights, arguably one of the largest that's ever taken place regarding the Second Amendment. They're burning the Second Amendment. They're burning the Constitution. This will lead to illegal searches and seizures. This will lead to endless violations of our rights. It says based on an order, based on some order that some nitwit in some office writes, because why? Because they read things that you've written on social media and they don't like your tone. It just gives them a bad feeling, and so they write up this order, and then before you know it, again, a knock on the door. Give us your guns, we have an order, we get to take them. Go to hell. It continues, and it says, in 2023, the Justice Department's Office of Justice Program, or OJP, awarded $238 million to states, territories, and District of Columbia under the Burn State Crisis Intervention Program, SCIP, which was created by the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act it says, designed to help jurisdictions implement crisis intervention strategies, including ERPO programs. So they pay people to violate your rights. They fund each other to violate your rights. They support one another to write up all the paperwork and make all the necessary resources and have all their Jewish lobby lawyers stamp on all the papers appropriately to come after us. It says, in addition, OJP awarded $4 million to support training and technical assistance under Burn SCIP, including $2 million that was awarded to the Johns Hopkins Center for Gun Violence Solutions to establish the ERPO Resource Center. Ladies and gentlemen, the Johns Hopkins Center for Gun Violence Solutions should be abolished. It should be done away with. It's an interagency organization designed to destroy the Second Amendment and us. It then says, in collaboration with OJP's Bureau of Justice Assistance, BJA, the center will support states, local governments, law enforcement, prosecutors, attorneys, judges, clinicians, victim service providers, and behavioral health and other social service providers in their efforts to implement ERPO programs to fit local needs, share resources, and promising practices with the field, and help ensure that funding received through Burn SCIP is effectively utilized. It means they're covering all their bases, and they're going to make sure this sticks. It says, quote, supporting our law enforcement and community partners in curbing the scourge of gun violence is more critical than ever, said Acting Associate Attorney General Benjamin Miser. In addition, they said, quote, to our other resources leveraged across the Justice Department, this center will provide communities with new tools and technical assistance to help them implement effective crisis intervention strategies and reduce gun violence. Knock on your door, take your firearms because of a few tweets you made, and then toss you in jail if you refuse to comply. It goes on, it says, quote, OJP's investment in ERPO programs demonstrates the department's commitment to addressing the gun violence crisis in the United States, unquote, said OJP Assistant Attorney General Amy L. Solomon. Quote, there you go, Solomon, every single time. Quote, this crisis cannot be solved at one level of government. We must use all of our resources and collaborate at the federal, state, and local levels to find innovative, evidence-based, and holistic solutions to help keep American communities safe. The hypocrisy of these people. They cry out in pain as they strike you. They're openly telling you that they're going to come after legal Americans, but at the exact same time, they're telling you that it's okay that illegal aliens are armed, that they are allowed to legally possess firearms for self-defense as an illegal alien, but you're not. This goes on. It says, through the center and its newly launched website, states, local governments, law enforcement, prosecutors, attorneys, judges, clinicians, victim service providers, and behavioral health and other social service providers will have direct access to critical information that will enhance their ability to reduce firearm homicides and suicides. That means all your social media posts, anything you've ever done in your life, including your medical records. If you went to the doctor because you said, I'm feeling bad today, they get to come after you. Again, they're putting together dossiers on every American, and they're using the law to do it, and manipulating the law clearly to do it, all while wiping their backsides with the Constitution because they don't care. It says the website will be maintained and updated to include newly developed resources for the field created through the center in partnership with BJA. It says the website also provides a platform for the center to highlight emerging and promising practices in successful ERPO implementation and connects states and localities to innovative strategies to reduce gun violence and save lives. That's not... I hate that slogan. Don't you? Don't you just hate that? Gun violence. We need to reduce gun violence and save lives. What you need to do is get criminals off of the streets. That's what you need to do. You need to close the border and stop letting illegals come in here. And oh, by the way, you have to unprogram and de-brainwash every sheriff that exists in the United States because they and their deputies go home on their fat asses and watch Fox News every single day and believe everything that they're told on their TV. I'm going to play it later from the local school board meeting where I live, which was a doozy. A deputy showed up, ladies and gentlemen, and gave a presentation and a little speech. This is happening across the United States right now. This wraps up one last paragraph. It says, as of this month, 21 states and the District of Columbia have enacted ERPO laws. Successful and effective ERPO implementation requires a comprehensive and holistic approach that incorporates a wide range of stakeholders. Oh, we know who they are. And then it says the center is designed to provide resources consistent with that need, unquote. And that was updated as of March 23rd. It's more government, and they're telling you that they are the enemy and that you are the enemy of them, rather. that they don't like you and that they're coming for us. They're openly stating it. Now we have this. And this is a theory of mine, and I want to get out in front of this in advance because I think that this is remarkably important. So bear with me here just for a minute. And there, again, I have a presentation here that I want to play from the local school board meeting. Okay. Given the fact that it's not unusual for school districts across the United States to have someone who works either within the district or within their county or even within their city show up and give safety presentations on what the county is doing to keep people safe, quote unquote, and what the school itself as a district is doing to keep people safe, quote unquote. Given the fact that that's not unusual for that to happen, I do find it unusual that it is happening now and almost in unison. Again, the timing I thought was beyond fortuitous. You have me in Oxford, Michigan a month ago, and a woman shows up who is the director of their entire school safety program, and she gives a giant presentation on all these quote-unquote school safety measures that their district is taking. It was beyond embarrassing and totally pathetic. Beyond that, though, you now have this school board meeting which took place on March 21st. I watched our local school board meeting in its entirety. It lasted about 3 hours. I would say approximately the first half hour, about the first 40 minutes or so, they were in executive session, and then the remainder of the time were numerous gaslighting presentations. Before I play the audio that I want you to hear, let me run down what's going on here locally and how thick the brainwashing is. You don't have to live locally to understand this, okay? So just because I'm bringing up a local issue here doesn't mean that you should tune out. I'm going to tie this in nationally and exactly why I think this is a massive problem and why I think something is going to pop off in a school district very, very soon. So I'm going to get out in front of this and just say this. The school district, Talawanda City Schools in Oxford, Ohio, is so brainwashed that they would be the ones to go along with, if not perpetuate, a fake and or real school shooting. I don't think that they would want a real one to happen, but as we know, it's not difficult to convince the people in the area that a fake one happened. Again, all you have to do is look at how law enforcement operates. Law enforcement goes out there, they make presentations like the one you're going to hear in a minute. They gaslight the public into believing that they are the be-all, end-all of your safety, that government is the be-all, end-all of your safety, and that you should always trust them because why would we ever lie to you? And the number of brainwashed people that actually believe that is too many. The number is too high. So I'm just saying, again, I want to be on the record where I live as saying, it would not surprise me if Talawanda City Schools pulled off something like this. And or went along with something like this. And here's one of the motivating reasons why. Talawanda City Schools is becoming insolvent. They're losing money. They're not getting more of it. And one of the ways that you boost the pocketbook of a school district is not just by throwing copious amounts of money toward it, but you manufacture a crisis, and then the entire media shows up, and all of these donors show up, and all of these charity organizations show up, and before you know it, they've got more money than they know what to do with, because the nation feels for them, and the Jewish lobby that went along with the whole thing feels for them, and that story gets rolling. And again, this is a very specific subject that Jesse James and Sandy brought up on this show a long time ago regarding Oxford, Michigan. The number of donors, the number of websites and organizations and NGOs and 501c3 nonprofits that throw money into this area to either give it to students, parents, organizations, the school district itself, whatever it is. All of that is a thing. I mean, crisis manufacturing is a big business in the United States. And if it goes away, well, then all of them go away. But if there are people who are brainwashed into believing, again, that everything that they see and or hear on their TV is real, then they're the suckers that are going to open up their wallet. So let's run through a quick scenario regarding a fake school shooting and how that might actually take place. We already know the other ones, and we know how those took place. But I just want to hit on a couple of points because this is how easy it is. Say, for example, a school district sets up a drill. The drill is known to everybody. It's known to a lot of people. So what they do is they use a fake shooting with the assistance clearly of, it would have to be at least the police department, the sheriff's department, and everybody else. Why? Because they're all Masons and they're sworn to secrecy. They're not going to say anything otherwise. They're not going to turn on one another because they'll kill one another. So that's a thing. Look it up in Masonry. It's a thing. So beyond that, that's how they get certain people on board. But as we know, you don't need everybody to know that there's a school shooting really. All you have to do is convince enough people, and then they will leave the environment and tell enough people into believing that one actually happened when it didn't. So if they ran this on a day of like a shooter drill, for example, or some kind of a lockdown drill, that's all you would need. Everybody's locked down in their classrooms. No one's a witness to anything. No one witnesses anything. You run a couple of masked people wearing masks into a building shooting blanks. Everybody gets scared because they hear gunshots, so they instantly think, again, they're being traumatized. They're being ritualized and traumatized here. Ritually traumatized, rather. They hear blanks going off. They think they're real bullets because they sound like them. You hear screaming in the classrooms. You hear crying occasionally. And then the lockdown is over. Cops show up, blah, blah, blah. They say, we got them. You know, they're under arrest or we shot them and they're dead and blah, blah, blah. And then what do? They throw up a couple of pictures of students that no one has ever even seen and or knows. Or if there's CIA in this town, which there very well may be, because there's CIA basically everywhere, so why not? They enroll their children into this district, and then they don't actually have their children killed. They just show their picture on screen as if they're dead when they're not, and then they simply unenroll their children. But everybody in the area thinks that these kids are dead when in fact they're just the children of CIA agents. I know this sounds crazy to some people, but I'm telling you, this happens. This is a real thing. And even if they aren't tied into the CIA, they could be Masons, they could be tied in with anybody else, and then you know what happens? The same thing that happened at Sandy Hook. Those kids grow up, no one recognizes them because no one analyzes pictures and pays attention to them. They move to another town, they change their name, their last name maybe, they leave their first name the same, and then they re-enroll in a different school, and then that's it. They're back to the same old rigmarole that they were enjoying in the previous school, except in the previous environment, everybody who lives there thinks that they're dead when in fact they're not. That's how this gets pulled off. That's one way that it can get pulled off. The other way it gets pulled off is remarkably unfortunate, which is it really happens. But my larger point too, beyond that and with that aside, is that you have sheriffs and deputies specifically now going from school district to school district to school district in partnership with these individuals who are providing these presentations on school safety. And they're all saying the same kinds of things. And there's two aspects of this beyond the obvious. I'm going to play the whole presentation, okay? So let me set this up now. I was going to set up the whole school board meeting, but it's almost not worth it. I might a little bit later, but this is more important. At the beginning of this meeting, a woman comes up to the lectern, and she'll introduce herself, and you'll hear it. And again, she's their safety coordinator for the county or something along those lines. I find that to be remarkably embarrassing, but either way, you'll hear her, and she gives an entire PowerPoint presentation. And then there's a guy who comes up after her, and he also works for the county. And then a deputy sheriff comes up and speaks after him. And again, openly states, we're here for you, and if you have any questions, you can reach out to us, and blah, 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 blah. And then at the end of the presentation, again, she comes back in then, at the tail end. The first woman who speaks comes in at the end, and she goes, by the way, schools are safe. They're the safest environments that exist. They're remarkably safe. I'm saying to myself, horseshit. No, they're not. They're furthest from, for a variety of reasons. But this is the gaslighting. And they get away with it. No one questions these people. Nobody. And then when that happens, when she's done talking, the superintendent chimes in. And he goes, I can't even do it. You'll hear his voice. He's remarkably effeminate. He's queerer than a $3 bill. And this guy immediately opens up, I believe, by saying, you can trust him. You can trust the school district. If you have any questions, call them and trust them. The only reason they won't tell you something is because it might be confidential. And we have to keep certain safety parameters private, because if we let it out, then the public will know how to infiltrate our systems and blah, blah, blah. But you can trust us. And then he says this, which was one of the best dimes he drops. He says, don't go on social media and don't believe all the conspiracy theories about this, that, or the other. Don't do that, he says. Go to him and ask him, and he'll tell you what the truth is. This, ladies and gentlemen, is why these environments are unsafe and becoming more unsafe by the minute. Because now these people are all coordinating with one another against anybody who tells the truth about something. This is the problem. This is how deep the brainwashing exists. And I've got to tell you, again, a nation can't survive like this. It just can't. The brainwashing is too thick among too many people who believe things that are not real. And these school environments are all in it together. All of them. They're all doing the same stuff. They all believe things that aren't real. They're all lost. It actually, it frightens me. I'm just going to flat out say it. Again, I'm not trying to fearmonger here. I'm just telling you the truth as to how deep this goes and how little these people actually know. You have to understand, again, I've been through the whole COVID story with the sheriff's department before, and the evidence that they're in possession of, and they're not doing shit about it. And I hand them truth on a silver platter, and they do nothing, because none of them are doing anything about it. And then it comes to something like this, quote unquote, school safety, and they think that they're the safest places that exist. I've got to play the audio now. This is kind of long. It's at least, it's almost 15 minutes. So just over that. Give this a listen. This is the entire safety presentation that this county group gives at last Thursday's school board meeting. I just told you the order of the speakers. Again, they introduce themselves. Here it comes in 3, 2, 1.
Great. Now we'd like to welcome Catherine Clayton, the Butler County Educational Service Center Director of Public School Safety, who's going to do a safety presentation.
I don't know how you guys are going to follow that presentation.
I know.
I was going to say, I'm a little hurt that I was not invited to the donkey ball, but police and fire were, so.
I was going to say, how did OPD do in that?
I was quite impressed with Chief Jones's donkey riding abilities. He's a man of mystery, many talent.
So as they're getting ready for the presentation, I just want to introduce Catherine Clayton. She works for Butler County ESC. We contract with her. She is a partner, one of our partners in safety. We had some information shared at the last board meeting, and we wanted to provide some information on what we can share, what we can't share, but to let you know that safety is paramount in the Talawanda School.
So I have been, while we're waiting, I have been in this role since 2016. This was a new role. It was made because of the requirements from the ORC, OAC on school safety. These school districts got together and requested the ESC create a position that could help create comprehensive management. My background is in emergency management. I came from Hamilton County Emergency Management and Homeland Security, and then before that, Butler County Emergency Management and Security. And then I began my public service career in Kenton County, Kentucky, in their emergency management. So I have a lot of experience in the Southwest Ohio, Northern Kentucky region on planning, preparedness, mitigation, response, and recovery to an all hazards events in Southwest Ohio.
Hey, Matt, how are we doing with the presentation?
Well, I will continue to stall.
Yep, that's what I'm doing, continuing to stall.
Thankfully, I never had a hard time talking. Really, what I wanted to come here today to discuss with you all was what is school safety in Butler County. Because of sensitive information, I will not be speaking on anything directed towards Talawanda or about Talawanda specifically. But I did want to really kind of give an overview of what is going on in the county in regards to school safety. I think in previous years, it seems like safety was more on the forefront because it was new, it was developing. School safety is ever changing, as our hazards are. We always want to adapt and adjust to any threat that may be either man-made, technological or natural hazards. As we saw just a week ago, just to the north of us, experiencing, we believe, 8 tornadoes and may have a federal declaration coming. That's a lot of damage. So it is severe weather is a huge threat in Southwest Ohio, as is hazardous materials. So we don't want to spend too much time focusing on one hazard, which would make us vulnerable to all hazards. So we really want to have a comprehensive, solid foundation for school safety. I'll just go ahead.
I also know that Officer Rosser was here earlier and got called away.
It did get called away. So I will, yes, partnerships. Don't get ahead of my presentation.
That's okay.
Yes.
I just know that he wanted to be here,
He
was
was
here
here.
earlier.
We did have a few partners that could not be with us today. We obviously invited, with me, I have Lieutenant Jeff Robinson with the Oxford Police Department, and I have Director Jim Bolin. He is the director of the Butler County Emergency Management Agency. Chief John Deathridge was also invited, could not come due to a previous commitment. And then we also had Phil Clayton, who is our Southwest Ohio Regional Disaster Services Supervisor with Ohio Emergency Management. He's actually up in the northern counties helping with the recovery efforts for the tornado. All, of course, would have been here tonight had they not had conflicts. So I'll just go ahead due to time constraints. So just really, you're just going to have to picture this amazing presentation, like the best thing you've ever seen. So school safety is required statutorily, right? So the governor did sign into law, and according to ORC's 5502 and OAC's, the Ohio Administrative Code 4501 and 3313, really governs sort of the bones of what school safety is in Ohio, which is every 3 years, schools and school districts are required to submit an emergency management plan to the Ohio School Safety Center. Every year in between those 3 years of submitting a plan, they have to certify that the plan is still current, which means that they will review the plan, update contact information, any changes in buildings or in drills, things of that nature. Every calendar year, every calendar year, they must complete what we call an emergency management test or an exercise based off of their current emergency management plans. Those are really designed to test the capabilities of a school district to respond to any number of hazards. According to 3737, they are also required to do drills. Now, we all grew up with the tornado and the fire drills. It is no different with schools nowadays. However, we do add 3 school safety drills a school year as well, and those could include lockdown, barricades, and rapid evacuations. School districts and school buildings must also complete a theoretical drill, which is just a really fancy way of saying let's have a short tabletop exercise or a discussion-based exercise on any number of hazards, and how as staff are we going to respond to that. These are all designed to help keep school students and staff prepared. Muscle memory. We all do our fire drills. We all know the stop, drop, and roll. It's the same with the tornado drills. We all know to get to an interior room, lower levels. And with safety drills, we all know to not be where the threat is at. It's that muscle memory to help us when the emergency happens. Additionally, schools classified as public schools must also complete a threat assessment training that is required for grades 6 through 12 in every school building. However, I do know some school districts have allowed all their school buildings, including elementary schools, to have a threat assessment team. Do not let that name throw you off. Really what that is a behavioral risk assessment for students that may need intervention services, and that is for the schools to be able to provide extra services to help students that may be struggling. We also have a statewide anonymous reporting system. That is anywhere any staff, parent, student, anybody may call that anonymously and report possible threats. I do know statewide it has also been used for self-harm. And we have been able to intervene in those services as well. And those tips that are credible, and I say credible because sometimes it may be Butler County, Iowa, and not Butler County, Ohio, and things like that can get confused. So when I say credible, that's what I mean, that they are talking about this jurisdiction. They are then reported to the Ohio School Safety Center as well. And all of those are classified, is that the correct word? They classified, meaning that they're not public records. They cannot be requested. This is really what I would call your bones of a school safety program. None of this creates a comprehensive school safety program. There is not one person, not one program, not one piece of technology that creates safe schools. It is a combination and a teamwork, if you will, of all of those things. So when I talk about daily common operations, this is what is happening on a daily basis. Like I said previously, schools have done these things for so long, almost over a decade now, that it's not just something that they do, it has become a part of their school culture. School safety is now a part of the culture of your school. So community partnerships, this is vital. Talawanda School District, any school district in Butler County is not out there on Lonely Island, although you may feel like it because being so surrounded by such rural areas, but you are a small community in a much larger community. We are all intertwined and not within our own bubbles. And the relationship buildings, not only within other school districts, within your own buildings, but with your community partners, with your EMAs, with your police, with your fire, with your road crews even, can really help bridge any gaps that you may identify in your plans and in your exercises. We have district school safety meetings in the counties that they meet quite regularly. This is a great opportunity to share information, best practices, any lessons learned after actions, after events. We will discuss specific topics at that time, perhaps bring trainings on board. It's a great opportunity to hear from the buildings what they're seeing and how we can adapt programs that way. We also have regional and county resources. Butler County in Southwest Ohio is incredibly rich with resources. Back in 2018, we started a program in the county to conduct all hazard vulnerability assessments for school buildings. We can spend an entire summer walking through 25 school buildings, possibly. Since then, we've walked through, I feel like 25 more, just helping to identify any areas that we may need to shore up, to strengthen in order to create safe schools. We have reunification workshops. Our next one is this summer, where we are able to bring schools and school districts together to discuss reunification plans, offsites, any lessons learned from previous schools that have experienced reunifications. We talk communications, we talk partnerships again, and to help identify those resources and gaps. We have county-wide meetings here that we host with all the schools, the school superintendents in our districts, in order to share information and lessons learned. We have regional safety meetings in Southwest Ohio, where I go and meet with the Big Four, as I call it. So it's Hamilton, Butler, Claremont, and Warren counties will all meet to, again, discuss any issues, current events, most notably like the swatting incidents that we have seen in Southwest Ohio, and lessons learned in that. We have statewide conferences and trainings that we participate in, and most notably here at the end of the summer, there will be the Ohio School Safety Center's annual summit that we always participate. And then, of course, there is the daily communications and information sharing. And there's always a flow of communication and information sharing happening between myself and the school districts, between the school districts and their buildings, between the buildings and their parents. And that is incredibly vital in sharing updated information. Grants and grant funding. So how do we pay for all of this, right? To keep our buildings secure. Obviously, we have prioritized safety projects, and just some things in Butler County that we've been able to do is obviously we developed those vulnerability assessments. We've done physical securities, technological upgrades. We've hired personnel such as SROs or school safety officers. There has been learning loss, technology, and academic materials to help during the COVID years. And then the services and resources are a new portion of our safety grants that we're seeing. They're allowing for mental health resources to be applied for grant opportunities. We have brought in millions in this county in grant funding. And that's, unfortunately, I couldn't get you an exact number because people were having a hard time going through the last 10 years trying to add up all of their numbers. But we have brought in millions, and that does not include the COVID funds that we received for the emergency declarations. Just a couple of the grants that we have used is the Attorney General School Safety Grant, and just recently the Attorney General's IT School Safety Grant, which districts and law enforcement can then partner up for grant opportunities. We did have FEMA declaration. I do know school districts in Butler County did apply and were able to receive reimbursements for any and all COVID funding that they had spent during those years. Bureau of Workers' Comp School Safety Grant, OFCC School Safety Grant, the Ohio School Safety Grant. That's just a few of the grants that are available for school districts and schools to apply based off of their meetings, based off their exercises, based off their vulnerability assessments in order to prioritize those projects. Ready? All right.
Just to bring some things back to what Catherine said, Jeff Robinson with the City of Oxford Police Department. I apologize to everybody in the crowd. I like to talk, and I talk very long-winded, and I kept these folks in session for a very long time tonight. So I apologize to everybody that's been waiting for this meeting to start. You can blame me and the long day that I've had. But to mention just our management team, the public safety and emergency management team, Catherine mentioned a number of our partners here in the county, but we partner with state fusion centers, state information centers, the Highway Patrol, Ohio EMA, a number of federal agencies, and then other agencies surrounding the Butler County area. As we talk about school safety plans, understand that they are protected by Chapter 5502 of the Ohio Revised Code. Throughout our work, we are often questioned to how or why schools are responding the way they do. But simply put, it's just not for public dissemination. This is protected information that it should not be discussed outside of the building or district safety teams. Those safety teams include the representatives we've talked about tonight, but as well as the representatives from the district, the individual buildings, and then district leadership personnel. This allows us to plan our processes and procedures to remain outside the hands of bad actors. We don't want people intending to do harm to our most precious population, our students, to know how we're going to respond to their intentions. As part of the public safety team, we do, however, plan for a multitude of scenarios and contingencies. I know that sometimes the lack of free-flowing information can be very frustrating. Unfortunately, this can be due to the chaos and rumor going on in an event. We do strive to push out vital information and correct information in consultation with all of our public information partners so that real-time decision-making can occur. Nearly every incident that we do respond to, be comforted that we debrief it and we review it for both the successes and improvement needs as they come up. No, the public safety is acting in the best interest of the school community when responding to the public safety concerns within this district. I do want to highlight a couple things as well that Catherine spoke on. This district needs to be congratulated on a couple things that they were some of the first to do in the state, certainly within the county. She spoke about the vulnerability assessment teams that were put together and the assessments that were conducted several years ago. The training that we've provided to the district teams, the building teams, they've been able to conduct those on their own with their building SROs. When we do those assessments, we do find gaps, we find vulnerabilities, and those are tools that we can then use that give us a lot of support and open up the grant processes that Catherine spoke of. We were the first county, to our belief, in Ohio that did this countywide. Every district in the county received these teams. We reviewed at least one building in their district and then supported them with continuing to review their other buildings in their district. Talawanda was one of those schools. Additionally, without going into too many specifics about it, Talawanda is the first district to join the police and fire radio network that all of our public safety officials throughout the county belong to. This provides them with stable, confident radio communications where they can have the confidence to speak with building members, public safety members, and administration throughout the district should we lose phone service or we lose internet service. They've got that communication that's just the same as the police network and the fire network that we can rely on to communicate in an event. I can't share enough and thank the partners we have. We've had a number of incidents over the years that our teams have had to come together in an incident. Fortunately, they have not been as grave as some that we've seen around the country. But I can tell you that a lot of our personnel that respond to these have kids in these schools. When something occurs, we hear from all ends of the district, from our law enforcement and fire personnel that are dedicated to this school district by having kids here. And oftentimes when they know that we're involved, they're comforted and confident in that situation, whatever it is, and that we're going to resolve it safely. I'd be happy to take any questions from the board. I don't know if Director Bolin has any comments, but anything you guys may have, our door's always open. We're always looking for ways to improve, and we certainly appreciate the partnership that we've had over decades with this district.
Good evening. My name is Jim Bolin. I'm the director of the Butler County Emergency Management Agency. We've been thoroughly involved in the school preparedness planning efforts since Catherine's come on board, since I've joined the agency in 2016. Our team has worked with Catherine and her community partners that she's put together to work with our schools to make sure that they are a safe but nurturing environment where folks are feel confident in their ability to go to school, to learn, to build community while being safe as well. I want to thank Catherine for all the efforts that she's done. I think some people see Catherine in her role and think that this is a role that a lot of communities have. We're very fortunate to have Catherine, Butler County. I know Hamilton County has a similar position through their Educational Services Center, but this is not a position that is a statewide mandate or even regularly available throughout the state. Catherine's focus is making sure our schools are safe throughout the county, building these coalitions that put together these plans, that work with our stakeholders to make sure that in the event of an emergency that we are able and capable to respond. She's done a great job with that. Thank you.
I would just close with just saying that while it doesn't seem like it all the time, I want to emphasize that schools are safe. Schools are still a very safe place to be. They are secure, and they are secure because of the efforts of their staff, their administration, and their boards. You all have put a lot of policies and procedures in place, and I cannot thank you all enough for your partnership in helping me create a comprehensive emergency management program, not only in Talawanda School District, but across Butler County. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you so much, all three of you. I think this was really important for the public to hear, the systems that are in place, and the reminder that safety and security is paramount, and that means there are some things that simply cannot be shared and will not be shared. So thank you for this presentation, for this overview, and thank you all for the work you've been doing in the partnerships.
I just want to share too, it takes time. If there's an actual event going on, we are going to work our policies and procedures. And we have such strong connections with all of our local enforcements, not just in the Talawanda School District, but Butler County and outside of Butler County. We are strong because of our partnership. And I think our community needs to hear during these uncertain times, and you're hearing all of the craziness that's out there in the world, swatting, we can't get sucked up into that. We've got to focus on what is right and protect our students and staff in our buildings and everywhere. See something, say something. Our students are doing that. Our staff are doing that. And we're working through issues. What we can't do is use social media in particular, Facebook, Instagram, any of those things, to spread information that often is untrue and often will give ideas to bad actors because it's false and incorrect. We need people, if you have a question, come ask us the questions. And we might be able to provide the information, or we might not because it might be confidential. But understand, we are focused on ensuring all of our students and staff are safe. Thank you, and thank you for your leadership, your participation, because we have an outstanding district safety team because of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And then the brainwashed round of applause from all the participants in the room. There's so much there, ladies and gentlemen. I've got to go through a number of points. I have to. The overarching question is, why are they doing this? Why now? First of all, again, I got one of the people wrong at the very beginning when I was describing the individual speaking. The police officer who spoke is a city cop. He's not with the sheriff's office. That was my mistake. I apologize. But as you heard the woman say, who works for the county with the Department of Homeland Security, no less, that she wanted endless other people to be there from both the state and the sheriff's department, and they couldn't. So all these people were going to be there. That's suspicious. That's never happened before. In a board meeting. And you heard the city cop say that the reason that they were in executive session before the board meeting for about 30 or 40 minutes was because they were talking with him. I'd love to know what he was telling them. I would love to know it. Numerous suspicious things in that presentation. In fact, endless suspicious things. Number one, the woman's resume is highly suspicious. Department of Homeland Security, almost since she's left the womb. This woman works in this county where I live in a position that doesn't exist anywhere else. That is suspicious. Why are we making a position regarding Homeland Security in this county when it doesn't exist in other counties in the state? They openly said that. That's a red flag. Why here? What are you planning? What are you doing? Is this a test ground for something that we don't know about yet? So there was that Homeland Security piece. Again, I thought just very odd. Again, why the presentation now? That was another one of my questions. Why the number of government people? Why did you want all those people there? To gaslight people further into saying, hey, you can trust all of us. We're government. We wear a badge. We carry a gun. We're the people that you need to trust. And if we say that something happens, then it must happen. These people must be high. But they're not. They're brainwashed. They actually think that what they're doing is helping Americans, and they aren't. Bad actors. What about, we could have some bad actors. What are you planning on? What are you planning for? Again, why now? Why now with all of these presentations and these questions? Like I said, what are they planning? Okay. They also said this. They openly admitted in their presentation that they have an anonymous tip line. An anonymous call-in tip line. They also openly admitted that under no circumstances, based on their law that they've apparently created, that no one can FOIA any of those tip line requests. That under no circumstances, perhaps even in a court of law, are you ever going to find out who provides the anonymous tip. Which means, ladies and gentlemen, the tip can come from them. It doesn't have to come from an outside party, really. It doesn't even have to be real. It can come from them. They can manufacture the tip. They can pay somebody to call into them and say something's going to happen, and then everybody's on lockdown. And it's all based on a lie. Just like the situation in Oxford, Michigan during a presentation when I was up there. Again, the safety director went over the same thing, as did the principal. Well, we had a lockdown the other day and there was a bomb threat, and it took us 3 hours before we told anybody about it because we were running through all our policies and procedures, and ultimately, that's the way that it all worked out. And then what happened at the end? You had nothing but parental outrage. You had nothing but scared students and scared staff members because they didn't know what the hell was going on. They can put all of the policies and procedures that they want in place, as I've said endless times before. It doesn't make the place safe because these places aren't safe, because these people work with government. They believe endless lies and then implement them. An anonymous tip line, ladies and gentlemen, where again, you'll never find out, even through a FOIA request, who made the tip and how did everybody respond to said tip. That's beyond suspicious. That means they can do whatever they want, whenever they want. They can manufacture anything. And they won't even know that it's manufactured, maybe. An anonymous individual who works for government will call another government agency, this tip line, with a threat that isn't real, but because they're a government agency receiving an anonymous tip from somebody through their government tip line, they're going to take it seriously. And then implement all of that fake nonsense on all of the people downhill and downwind of them, which is every single child in an American K-12 school environment. Another reason why these places are not safe. Again, why are they doing this now? And bringing this to everybody's attention now. They also brought up all of the grants and the grant funding and all of the money that flows in as a result of implementing these policies and procedures and carrying them out. It's big flippin' business. It's big business. And I'll prove it to you also with this. Get on YouTube and type in a company that is called Blue Bearing Solutions. BLUBEARING Solutions. Blue Bearing Solutions has a recent video out where these dudes look like CIA, ex-CIA contractors. And these people give presentations in full fatigues, fully armed with their fake guns and all that other stuff. And they work with local police departments on how to run through school buildings to clear the entire building, regardless of its size, of an alleged school shooter if there were one. Again, there's never been a situation where that's had to have been the case. Not a single one. Take the Ethan Crumbley situation. That, of course, was real. How was Ethan Crumbley apprehended? How was he arrested? It was 2 cops. 2 cops showed up, pointed a gun at Ethan, and he dropped the gun and put his hands up in the air. The cops even stated in that report, which I talked about on the show previously, that they didn't even know that Ethan was the shooter. They just saw him put his hands up in the air and were like, who is this guy? And then they saw the gun and they were like, oh shit, this is the guy who's the shooter. It doesn't take this giant, brigade of soldiers to go through a building and clear the building of a shooter. That's never happened in a real case. It happens in fake ones, doesn't it? Nashville, Uvalde, so on and so on. Sandy Hook, you had all those feds and all those ATF agents running around with sniper rifles and carrying, honest to God, they were carrying guns like they're carrying a bucket of tennis balls in their arms and their hands. It looked ridiculous because that's not how it gets done. But they have these companies that go from school district to train these people for these kinds of things. I think it's more for the purpose of manufacturing these things. Or they're really doing it because they know that these places are going to be flooded with illegal aliens. You can't tell me schools are safe. You just can't. They're furthest from. The curriculum's bad enough. That's enough lies. But all of this Department of Homeland Security having their fingers in and on everything? No chance. I don't buy it. It's big business, and there's too much money flowing to it. I'm just looking at my notes here. The cop was reading a written statement. This was a written statement, which means this is something that was given to him by someone. He didn't write this. No chance. Someone else wrote this. Which means if someone else wrote it and he's reading it, how many other people are reading the same exact thing in their school board meetings from a local cop? Saying, don't worry, you can trust us. We're the cat's pajamas, and don't get on social media and believe social media lies because, well, bad actors, as the superintendent said. Give me a break. Again, the woman who works for this county Homeland Security office, this is an office that does not exist anywhere else in the state. I find that suspicious. No doubt about it. And again, finally, with the superintendent's comments at the very end, he's lost his mind. He's a complete tool. It's the only reason they keep him around is because he's just full-fledged retarded. There's no way around it. You tell him to jump, he says how high. It's that simple. They love him for it too, I bet. I guarantee it. This guy's tied in. He's not smart. There's nothing smart about him, which is the problem. It means that during these presentations, he won't ask any questions. He will just bow down and agree. Ladies and gentlemen, there are no more unsafe environments than American schools. They are playgrounds for the CIA. Playgrounds. They can do whatever they want. She just said it herself. Department of Homeland Security. In this state, in this county, and now here. I'm sorry, I don't trust these people. I don't trust any of them. And the cops in this town are tools too. They don't think outside the box. They follow orders also. They don't question anything. They don't think conspiracies exist, even though it's state and federal law. That conspiracy is an actual crime, and that conspiracy to commit fraud is a crime. But as we know, if they're all doing it, then it's not a crime. And what did they say? They said something about bioweapons, or hazardous waste, I think is exactly what she said. Well, you have hazardous waste in this county, and in this state, and in this country. It's masquerading as a preventative medicine, and you haven't done shit about it. That's a problem. This is how brainwashed these people are. They say these things, they give these presentations, and they don't even know what's really going on. Not a clue. One final thing regarding this. You did hear him mention, the police officer, that this school district does something that no other school district does in the state. These are his words, and I've heard this internally from an employee. All of the administrators walk around in all of these buildings, all the actual school administrators, they walk around with an earpiece in. And it's attached to a cord, which is attached to something else. All of these school administrators are patched in to the county so that they have direct contact with the sheriff's department if something were to, quote unquote, go down. Can you not pick up a phone? What's the problem? Again, are they the test subject for this kind of a tool? I know that somebody would say, shut up, Sean, that's a safe thing. That's a safety thing, and if all they have to do is hit one button and then they can instantly alert the sheriff's department, then that's safer than dialing 911 on your cell phone. I mean, look, why are they, my question is this, why are they doing this just here? Why are they the test subjects for something that doesn't get used anywhere else? Is it just so that they can brag about being the only ones that do it? Do they actually think it matters or that it's important? Or are they planning on popping off with something where they're actually going to have to use that particular so-called tool, either for something that's real or for something that's manufactured, so that they can then come around on the back end and say, this tool worked, now we want every school across the nation to have this particular tool, this communication device. Apparently, the students in the school district themselves call the administrators FBI agents. This is a thing. Apparently, this is the case. They actually call them this because they think that they look like FBI agents walking around with this earpiece in. It's traumatizing people. It's normalizing this big government police state nonsense in school buildings. This is not safe. You cannot learn in these environments. Homeschoolers are laughing their asses off listening to this presentation right now. They're saying we don't have to deal with any of that. We don't have to sit in these meetings. We don't have to go to those board meetings, and we don't have to subject our children to all this bullshit. And they're right. They don't. And that's why they're healthier, smarter, more well-rounded, more polite. It's for all of those reasons. But again, according to the superintendent, if you say anything that counters what he says or what anybody in the county says, certainly from the Department of Homeland Security and or police, well, then there's something wrong with you. Then you're a conspiracy theorist. So don't run to the internet where lies get perpetuated and rumors spread. No, don't do that. Go to them for the answer. Go to the same people that these people don't trust. Because all the parents in that room applauding like seals at the end, as they're all doing that, they're all applauding the same government agencies that have been lying to them about endless things over the course of time. COVID, for example, quote unquote. Same thing with the entire school board and the superintendent. The people in the crowd hate them, and yet there they are applauding alongside of them as big government comes to save the day. The hypocrisy in the room is astounding. And by the way, the person you heard coughing during that presentation, that was the cop. Wonder how many shots he took. Something is going to happen. That's my whole point. Whether it's in this town, in this county, or it's nationwide somewhere else. Something's going to pop off in a school district, and I want to get on the record as having said it. Because if it happens here, I'm going to be all over this. If something goes down here, you can guarantee I'll be all over this. If they don't kill me first, that is. Hopefully not. I mean, don't do that. Not suicidal. But either way, again, it's exhausting. I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted. I'll tell you what, I'm going to leave it there for this episode. I'm going to end the episode here. I have other education-related things to bring up. I even have some jab-related things to bring up, but I'm going to save it for Wednesday because it really doesn't tie in after listening to that. And I kind of want this to just sit alone as its own thing for the most part. Yeah. Pay attention to that. That would be my suggestion and my warning to anybody. Pay attention to the school districts around you and whether or not they are giving presentations like this around right now. Because this seems highly suspicious to me. Are police officers showing up at your school districts and giving presentations like this? I've witnessed 2 in just the last month, within the last 30 days. Again, there were police officers present in the Oxford, Michigan room, but they weren't the ones giving the presentation. That was being given by the district's director of public safety and school safety and blah, blah, blah. This, however, this hit a different level. And again, you heard her say at the very beginning, we wanted all these other law enforcement people and government people to show up, but they couldn't because they were busy doing other things around the state. That's a lot of brass, so to speak, in one room, giving the same kinds of presentations and all piling on and saying again, you can trust us, you can trust us. I think it's highly suspicious. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. I'll end the episode there. Again, thank you for listening and sticking with it. If you have more comments or observations about what you just heard or more takes or you think something's fishy, again, hit me up either in email or in the comments section. Please, I want your opinions on this. I've communicated again with individuals that have been associated with things like this, and they think, I'm certain you're out there, and I'm certain you think that this is shady. It's just too weird right now, and they're stirring the pot. So I don't think that's good, which I think, again, is another reason why you have to leave these environments and get your children out. No doubt about it. I don't trust any of these people, not any of them. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I'll catch you on Wednesday. Thanks for listening. Peace.
Thank you for listening to American Education FM. Make sure and check out AmericanEducationFM.com for more information. Take care and God bless.